Okay, we're back for part 2 on arm writing, and the topic of this video is, should you learn to write with your arm? This is a question I see a lot in the handwriting subreddit. People are wondering. I think they're learning about the Palmer method, also known as business writing, and maybe they're reading the Palmer method book, which is linked in the sidebar of that subreddit, and they're saying like, oh, what's all this arm writing stuff about? It's telling you to write, with this different grip and with movement and speed, 200 beats a minute and all this. It can become very confusing, and then when you actually try to go write with your arm for the first time, it's so incredibly difficult that you immediately question, am I doing this right, and should I even be doing this? Like, is this worth my time? Because this is clearly not easy. So I'm making a video today to kind of address that question, and I think it starts with the idea that there's no right or wrong here. I said that in part 1 of this series. People have amazing handwriting. People create amazing calligraphy, calligraphic works using their fingers, and other people do amazing things using their arm. There's no I'm not making this video to denigrate one style or the other. I personally have been learning to write with my arm, so I'll admit I'm a little biased towards that type of calligraphy and the works that people create with their arm, but I fully respect the amazing calligraphers and just handwriters even on Reddit that just have amazing handwriting, and they do it purely with their fingers. So there's no hierarchy here. It's just, it all depends on what you want to do. And I will say this, is that when it gets to like the best calligraphers that I've seen in the way they write, a lot of them use a combination of both arm and finger movement. So maybe they're using a little more arm movement when they're doing their capitals and they're flourishing, and then they're using their fingers when they get down to the smaller, lowercase letters. I see a lot of that. So at some point, if you want to really reach the top levels of calligraphy, you're probably going to need to learn a little bit of both. You're going to need to develop that arm movement. But I wanted to cover some easy cases first. Should you learn to write with your arm? And I think for most people, I think a lot of people are just trying to improve their handwriting. They want to be able to write legibly so that their teachers, their classmates, their coworkers can read what they're writing. If that's the case, and that's where you want to stop with penmanship, then don't worry about arm writing. It's going to read you down. When you start to learn arm writing, your handwriting is actually going to get worse when you start writing with your arm. So unless you're if you just want to stop at legible handwriting, don't worry about arm writing. Write with your fingers, and you'll be fine. On the other hand, maybe you already practice handwriting. Maybe you have beautiful handwriting. Maybe you practice calligraphy. Wherever skill level you're at, maybe you're just happy with where you are, and you don't have any desire, you don't have any motivation to go further. No judgment there. Maybe you create very beautiful things. Why get into arm writing at that point? I would ask you that. If you don't have any ambitions beyond what you're already doing and you're enjoying what you do, then I would say continue to enjoy it. You can certainly continue to develop your finger writing and your control and abilities with your finger writing. I would say keep going down that path. Don't worry about arm movement writing. Another easy case, let's say you want to be very serious about learning the Palmer method, learning business penmanship, or kind of the more calligraphic version of that script, which would be Spencerian or ornamental penmanship. If you want to learn any of those 4 scripts and you want to do it at a very high level, then I think it's kind of almost necessary that you learn to write with your arm. These scripts are meant to be done with movement. They're not done slowly and deliberately. They are by some calligraphers, and they're done quite well, and I honestly don't know how they do it. But at the end of the day, they're not doing it the way that it was done in the early 1900s. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. If you want to do it like it was done in the early 1900s, if you want to try to match the great penmen of the past, first of all, good luck. But second, you're going to need to do it with arm movement writing. There's no way you can do it with your fingers. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer. If you want to get into business penmanship, ornamental penmanship, Palmer method, those types of things, start learning to write with your arm. It will serve you well. Now maybe you're not focused on those scripts, but maybe you are an active calligrapher and you struggle with things like large capital letters and flourishing. Arm writing might be something that can help you. You know, if you're writing with your fingers, I'll just do an A. Let's say we're doing an A like this. Now you can see, just to do this ending, let's see, I'm just doing a little ending flourish like this. I couldn't do this all in one stroke. I had to stop, move my hand to the right to do this little ending flourish. And you also notice that it's still like it's very vertical oval, which is nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't go with some of the scripts that you may be learning. Now with arm movement writing, I can do a much bigger oval. So if you're trying to do strokes like this that are big and require movement across the page, arm movement writing might be something that you want to look into if you're struggling with those strokes, because doing this with the fingers is very difficult. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's not easy. And if you learn to write with your arm, it becomes a very easy and natural stroke. So that really covers all the cases that I thought of maybe where you're at. If you have a more personal case or you're still not sure, feel free to leave a comment here in the video. I do have some resources for learning arm movement writing, and I think it starts with the classic business penmanship books that you'll find on archive.org. And the two that I typically recommend to beginners are the arm movement method of rapid writing and the champion method. And you can search for those on archive.org. They will come up as the first search hits. When you search either of those titles, they are old books. They are written by people in that style in the early 1900s, in that language. They're somewhat hard to read, but if you're serious about learning arm movement method or arm movement writing, they are well worth your time to kind of struggle through and try to understand what they're doing. They all have, at the beginnings of these books, they have detailed descriptions of how arm writing works, how you sit, how you put your arm on the table, how you hold the pen, how you move. And then they have some great drills that you can practice early on to really develop that control and that feel for writing with your arm. Now there's also a more contemporary resource, which is Michael Gebhardt's blog. Michael Gebhardt is a really great penman and active today. And he has a blog called inpursuitofpenmanship.com. And he has some great blog posts, particularly one that talks about what I think is probably the best way to get started with arm writing. And I will link to that in the description. Very highly recommend it. He has videos with the blog post that shows you how he writes with his arm and how to really get started with arm writing. So those two places are definitely where you want to start, and I would go at them simultaneously. Michael's blog, inpursuitofpenmanship.com, and the classic business penmanship books. And then I also think it helps to just see more videos of people writing with their arm. And really the best place to do that these days is on Instagram. And you can do that by following Michael Gebhardt on Instagram. You can follow Mike Ward on Instagram. He has some great arm movement writing. Brian, I forget his last name, he's at SimpleBC. And then Marcus Carlini. Those are the arm writers that I could think of off the top of my head. Sorry if I missed somebody. The people that I have posted on Instagram before, they have videos. You can see how they write. You can see how they move their arm around the page. It's really beautiful. They're all great, amazing penmen, calligraphers. So definitely check them out. I'll link to their Instagram profiles in the description as well, so you can follow them. Yeah, I'm gonna end it right there. Sorry for all the qualifications. I just know this is a sensitive subject. I just want to be clear, like this is not a disrespect to finger writers. There's so many amazing finger writers, and I don't even want to call them finger writers. They're just calligraphers, and they just do it the way they do it, and they produce amazing works in all types of scripts. So this video is just, if you heard about arm movement writing and you're not sure if you want to get into it or not, and you think maybe it's something that could help you with your handwriting or your penmanship, hopefully this video gave you the information you needed to make that decision of whether you want to go down that arm writing rabbit hole. So good luck. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Thanks.